What's going on, everybody? Patrick Auger with Mr. Matthew Wells and Mr. Drake Riggs. And today we're talking about Nate Diaz, Dustin Poirier, going back and forth, talking about a fight. So if you missed the interview with Ariel Helwani, Nate Diaz sat down with him, talked about, his career, where he wanted to go, things like that. Mentioned that he wanted to fight Dustin Poirier or Charles Oliveira, Charlie Olives, at 170. Wasn't really interested in cutting weight and going back down to 155. Interestingly enough, Dustin Poirier did tweet out, and I quote, "A fight closer to my natural weight sounds like a great idea," seemingly indicating that he was up for a bout against Diaz at 170 pounds. Boys, let's break this down. First of all, I'll throw it to you, Drake. Nate Diaz versus Dustin Poirier. Is this something at 170? Is this something that wets your whistle, satiates your appetite, good sir?
No, whistle is dry as the desert in Vegas, my man. Nothing for me. Fantastically presented, though, I will say. So originally, right, when this fight was originally made, UFC 230, 2 years ago or whenever that was. Now I've lost track of time in the quarantine. It was supposed to be at welterweight, right? It was booked as a welterweight fight. As I said when we last talked about these two guys, didn't make sense then, still doesn't make sense now. If it's to go and happen again at 170, it makes even less sense than if it happens at 155. Absolute nonsense, man. I don't want this, but they both seem open to it, so it's possible. But no, man. I want some good logic in my lightweight division. I want my real good high-level elite fighters to take on other elite fighters, not guys who are part-timers.
All fair points. Matt, do you agree with that?
100% I agree with it. It's so crazy to me that Nate Diaz can put out this interview, just throw out a bunch of names, and all of a sudden everybody's interested in leaving the division to fight Nate Diaz. And I think that they're interested because they think it's an easy fight for them. Dustin Poirier, I think, will speak to any fight that he believes he can win competently. So that's why he's like so eager to be like, yeah, give me that Conor fight again right now. I'll kick his legs off again. Yeah, like give me Nate Diaz. I'll box his ass up. Like I know he's confident in his abilities to go out there and make an easy paycheck, not easy, quote unquote easy, right? But those are fights he feels very confident in. But I hate that right now because we're actually trying so hard to get clarity at 155. What's happening with the title? What's happening with that division? And then all of a sudden, Nate Diaz is like, "Hey, come fight at 170," and people are interested. Like no, can we at least shake out 155 first? Can we have our new champion? Or if Habib is coming back, like we don't know what's happening. Dustin Poirier should be the champion right now. There's just so many questions at 155. I don't want to hear any talk about any of these guys in that picture fighting at 170 right now, and that includes Conor too.
Ooh, the disrespect on Nate Diaz, just But I will say, I mean, if you're looking at this from Poirier's view, that's the next biggest money fight next to McGregor, and he probably feels much more confident that he can beat Diaz than he could beat McGregor. I mean, I think he feels he could beat both, but that's probably in his mind an easier fight than McGregor. And we've seen that Diaz does have enough star power. It can create a rub. Masvidal, I think, is a prime example of that. Yes, he was doing his own thing. Yes, he was on the up and up, but really it was that Diaz win that put him over the top when he then fought Usman. Reported pay-per-view buys were 1.3 million. Could have, we'll don't have enough sources on that to say that's correct, but that was mostly Masvidal drawing. And that was, again, after beating a big name like Diaz. Poirier, in his opinion, probably can go out, easily outbox Diaz, and then get even more star power, right? Imagine being a guy that's since they've blown up, you are the first guy to handily defeat both Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz. Imagine what that does to your marketability, to your selling points for the UFC. They can push you in all sorts of different ways. So from a business perspective, makes a lot of sense. Again, it is at 170. It is kind of messing up the lightweight division. And we're going to talk about whether or not we think this happens, regardless of how we feel about it at 170. Before we do, make sure you hit the like button if you haven't done so already. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed to us. Hit the notification button so you know when we're dropping the latest videos. And if you want to give us a shout out, give us a content topic, we are doing that as well if we deem it worthy, right? We've got a video out that should be out right now talking about UFC fighters and, well, really MMA fighters and their best path to the UFC. How does a fighter go from being a prospect and getting to the UFC in the best way, the quickest way? So go ahead and check that video out as well. But boys, again, when it comes to whether or not this will happen, whether or not we want to see it is a different question, but will this actually happen? Will the business book Diaz versus Poirier at 170? Is there any chance of this? Drake, I'll throw it to you first.
There's always a chance. There is always a chance, Pat. But the thing about this happening right now, and before I say why I don't think it's as likely, I will say that if it is to happen, I think that they should make a lightweight title fight, sort that out, and be like, all right, Dustin, you don't want to be a part of it right now. Fine. All right, you can go up. You can have this welterweight fight with Nate, whatever. And, that's better for them anyways, if they're just to get both of those things solved and maybe separated. But I don't think the chance of it happening is that good because of the Conor factor, right? With that trilogy waiting there, with the potential to put the title on the line, even though it seems weird because Conor just lost emphatically, if Dustin is removed from that and you want Conor to still stick around in there, you're going to have a lot tougher of a time selling Conor versus, let's say, Chandler, Oliveira, anybody else for the title and for it to be legit. It has to be against Dustin if they want Conor in a lightweight title fight. And I mean, the biggest one that they can do right now would be that trilogy fight. So just the fact that if Conor really is wanting to get that back as soon as possible, then the UFC's got to make that one over Diaz, right? Like, I just think he's got enough pull, and just with everything lined up and how they're interested clearly in making maybe Oliveira versus Chandler, like everybody else do their thing. They're focused on, what we've just seen recently, building off of that in a direction we kind of already have the feeling for. Nate is trying to straight up insert himself into something that he hasn't been in years, So I just think it is all that more likely, depending on Conor. Really, I think it really depends on Conor in this situation. And because of that, I will believe that he does want to get it back. And why wouldn't he? So I think the chances aren't very good, depending, though, on Conor.
Strong points all around, Matt. You agree, disagree? I have a feeling I might know where you end on this, but why don't you go ahead and let our viewers know?
I'm trying to put words in my mouth over there, Pat. Don't know where I'm going with this. No, listen, it could very well happen. It's just terrible timing for this fight to happen, for Nate Diaz to come in and fight any of these people right now. Like, fight somebody that you're not going to mention. I know that's not being mentioned, like at the top of the 155. Rematch Masvidal. Do that. That's what you should go do. But please leave 155 alone for now. If that whoever gets, I guess, the odd man out of the title fight, okay, sure, fight that guy then. That's fine. But I need to know what's happening with that 155-pound title first before we talk about Nate Diaz in any capacity of fighting, a guy that would be otherwise in that title picture. So, yeah, terrible timing. Nate's looking for a payday, I would assume. But at the end of the day, it's like with Nate, he's a novelty to me at this point. I don't, consider him to be a guy that's going to come in and contend for a title and defend a title and be an active champion. It's not what he's going to do. He's going to show up for a fight, take his paycheck, ride off into the sunset for a year, come back and start talking some more shit. And then everybody's going to be like, oh, Nate Diaz, I want him to fight whoever is supposed to be fighting for the title right now. So, the cycle continues as over the past 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with that, but I'm going to. And I'm going to say, from the business.
Dare.
I dare, in fact, because from the business point of view, again, let me just break this down. Both of you are talking about, we got to know what's going on with the 155 title. This is ridiculous. No, that's fan talk. We here over at UFC corporate don't give a shit who holds the belt. It is a marketability tool. We want the person that we can make the most money to hold the belt. So I will say this. I think there is actually a decent chance that Diaz fights Poirier, and it's going to come down to one thing and one thing alone, and that is Conor's availability. Conor clearly wants to run it back. That's the bigger fight. Poirier would certainly want that over Diaz. And this is, I think, if anything, just more of a negotiation tactic on Poirier's part, just saying, hey, I could go this way. But if Conor wants to be as active as he said he was, or did rather, then I think that this fight between Diaz and Poirier doesn't happen. Because I think you run it back and you do this. And unless Poirier loses, maybe then you could look at that. But even then, I think that kind of throws everything in the way. So that's the priority number one, getting Conor versus Poirier again. If Conor wants to take, a fair amount of time, right? After the first Diaz lost, he wanted extra time. He didn't want to do media. He wanted to make sure he was good to go before he rematched Diaz in that second fight. If he wants that time again, I think Poirier will say, you know what? In the meantime, let me go ahead and get this money fight with Nate Diaz, because that's clearly what Poirier is looking to do, is get these big money fights. And that works out for the promotion because, again, if Poirier becomes the first guy to beat Diaz and McGregor since they both blew up, that's just great marketability right there. If Diaz somehow wins, you now have Conor versus Diaz 3 just perfectly teed up for a bunch of money. And again, it will make anyone who values merit in the sport cringe and be like, what the hell are you talking about? All of this stuff. But from a business perspective, that is dollar signs all around. So I think there's a strong possibility we get Poirier Diaz if McGregor's not ready to go. If he is, though, I'm with Drake that I think that's the fight that makes way more sense. It's better selling for the promotion. You get that done right away. You go with it. But let us know in the comments how you feel about it. If I'm right, which of course I am, let me know. If these guys are right, go ahead and appease their egos and say they're right. But we all know I am. And let us know your thoughts on this. Do you want to see Poirier versus Diaz eventually, once things get sorted out with the lightweight title picture or not? Do you want to see this fight? Do you want to see it at welterweight? Does welterweight change anything? We haven't seen Dustin Poirier move up to 170. Who knows how that looks, right? We've got some options there. So let us know in the comments how you're feeling about this as well. Anything to wrap this one up, guys?
I would just love it if the MMA world would stop flipping out anytime Nate Diaz speaks. That's all.
Seconded.
209, baby. 209.